Hello everyone. If you're new here, which you should be, I'm pretty sure this is like the first video I'm putting on this channel. This is not an anime channel. And hi, if you're not new here, I have a second channel where I talk about anime. Maybe check out that one if you like what you see here. But this video is not going to be about anime. It's going to be about Isekai as a genre has a longer and more varied history past just Sword Art Online, where many people likely became familiar with it. But at its core, I think most people see Isekai, the genre of anime where someone is killed or in some other sort of way ends up in another fantasy world, as wish fulfillment. In an increasingly neoliberal Japan, and the rest of the world to be honest, where the recession will literally never end, there is a growing sentiment among the youth that you will work until you die. You will never amount to anything, and you are told to sit down and follow along with everyone else. So then, wouldn't it be nice to live in another world where you can be important and make a difference? Of course, not all isekai are like that, but I think a great many of the ones our eyes scroll past on my anime list usually are. They aren't just called cash grabs because they have nothing original to say and are packed to the brim with fan service, but the fact that they have nothing original to say is because they're stealing all the escapist ideas of other isekai to make an even more escapist isekai. And I think the fact that no matter how bland these stories are, they're still incredibly in print and getting adaptation after adaptation. People want these stories. And the growing prevalence of isekai, where the protagonist goes to another world by literally working themselves to death, only helps in this escapist perception. And that is exactly where Parallel World Pharmacy starts. After his sister died from an incurable illness, Yakutani Kanji studied to be one of the world's greatest doctors, only to die from a heart attack while working on a new medicine. He is then reincarnated as a child into a noble family with a new sister and the powers of the god of medicine. He can create any chemical compound so long as he can visualize it, and by making a foxhole with his fingers, he can identify people's ailments. And on the surface, it doesn't seem like an escapist fantasy. Yes, he's overpowered in the new world, but he doesn't use this power to win fights. Actually, he always tries to talk people down from fights and only use magic defensively. He also doesn't do this to try to become the world's greatest pharmacist. His motivation, quite simply, is to help people, and that includes other pharmacists, who he cooperates with, forming his own medical union near the end of the show. That on its own is a pretty interesting concept. An isekai that isn't about fighting but directly helping people. But what's really surprising to me is that this isn't even the only anime with this concept. There are a number of more light novels of pharmacies and drugstores in another world, some with more fan service than others. But this is oddly specific, right? So why this subgenre in particular? Well, I think looking more into the plot can really tell us what's going on here. The first few episodes of Parallel World Pharmacy are basically centered around things we've all daydreamed about at one time or another in middle school. How cool would it be to go back in time and introduce all our knowledge to ancient peoples? He uses modern medicine to cure a dying monarch when all the king's best doctors and his own dad, a noble doctor, can do nothing. He teaches everyone about bacteria, and he gets his own shop. This is pure wish fulfillment. Even the Spanish Inquisition cannot help but bow down and support this kid with very little fuss, even when they think his ability might be the work of the devil. Despite being a child, he's made a noble, earns the respect of his father, the church, and the Merchants Guild all in a single season. Essentially, every potential enemy is on his side easily. And all he's doing is giving people cheap and affordable healthcare. And there it is, right? While not as bad as the US, Japan's healthcare system has been feeling the effect of neoliberal policies with more and more people relying on private health insurance, and young people are suffering more debt due to public funds being allocated to the rising elderly population. This is why it may be confusing to some people, as it once was to me, that some anime include backstories where characters drown in medical debt, despite supposedly living in a country with universal healthcare. And this is the crux of my argument here. Despite having the greatest medicine in the whole world, Yakutani doesn't decide to make a huge profitable business out of it. When peasants can't afford his medicine, he doesn't invent insurance. Instead, he simply makes his medicine affordable to everyone and easily reachable in the center of the capital, Even he knows a market solution is not going to help this issue. He even uses his own wealth to run his own union, guild, to keep other pharmacies afloat and give people even greater access to his medicine. This is why I say this is the perfect isekai for modern and especially American audiences. Under capitalism, we can hardly imagine someone doing so much humanitarian aid for nothing in return, let alone imagine a world that doesn't require insurance or a ludicrously expensive healthcare system. In America, it is as fantastical to imagine a world where our politicians actually solve the healthcare crisis as it is to imagine a world where you can kill the Demon King to bring peace to the world. And while it is nice to play with stories of good-hearted people changing the world, the fact is, that is wish fulfillment. That's why this story is here. Changing the people on top doesn't change the fact that no one should be on top. The pharmacists of the world should unite and operate under their own terms rather than under the terms of CEOs and oligarchs who only care about profit and not the end product of the consumer. Friends, you have nothing to lose but your chains. Stories often tell us what's wrong with the world by lending a mirror to our fears. The world wars led to a rise in dystopian fiction. The optimistic end saw the golden age of science fiction. So, what other sorts of isekai are shedding light on what our society is missing out on? Oh god, fuck, build a third nuke.